How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Tales from the Darkside. This is Season 2, Episode 22, so 2 away from the finale of the season. This is entitled The Unhappy Medium and is from May 18th, 1986. The episode was directed by Dusty Nelson and stars Connie Stevens, Carolyn Clark, Richard Kuhlman, and Peter Miller. The episode was written by Edithe Swensen. In this episode, we get a TV preacher who has just recently died, and before he died, he was relatively disgraced. He still had his church and show, but people are starting to question him and think that his organization wasn't totally on the level. Well, his 2 remaining family members, as well as his second-in-command, his assistant, show up in his office to see a videotape that they think is going to be his will. However, the tape isn't his will, and it's got a vague message on it, something about him returning from the grave to give them a sign. And after the tape, they find that the office has literally been pulled out of reality, and they're currently somewhere between heaven and hell. An interesting concept there. However, I have to say, the episode only came out okay. This kind of reminds me of, I guess it's a slightly better version of Dreamgirl. Dreamgirl, people got pulled into an alternate reality of a stage play, and much like that, there's some interesting ideas and concepts, but they're just not fully explored, you know? And maybe if this was longer, and it had more time to talk and explore its themes, but you get 2 big themes with this one here. One, the church not really being a religion, but really being a big corporation masquerading as a religion. It's a TV program, and, you know, the idea of, okay, it's corrupt, what does that really mean? And, you know, there's some analysis to be had with the niece leaving and starting her own charity, and you could have explored that further. And also, the idea of you're trapped, you're pulled out of reality. They were questioning religion a minute ago, and now they find themselves literally trapped in the afterworld. You know, you could really do something with that. But both of these aren't fully explored, and I do wish, you know, maybe with more time you could have gotten some really good ideas out of here. But sadly, both the trapped out of space and time and the, you know, what is big religion, it could have been analyzed further, and here they're just analyzed to an okay extent. You know, and trapped in a room is a classic anthology horror idea, and you get some cool stuff out of that. And I think back in time it was more, you know, novel to critique big religion, and nowadays you see that all the time, so it's not, you know, as shocking anymore. Overall, it's an okay episode. I just wish it had gone deeper and been better, but, you know, for Darkside being, you know, lower budget, mid-80s TV, I mean, after all, outside of the VHS stuff, this is all one room, one location, essentially 3 characters. This is a bottle episode, but it's done well enough, you know? I mean, when you see them opening the doors and seeing heaven and hell, it really is just a light, you know? So that is a pretty cheap effect as well. But overall, it does okay enough. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the plot. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to analyze the plot and make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what the episode's about, but again, I'll be avoiding the end. We open up with the 3 people gathered in an office watching an old VHS tape of this pastor's program, and we see him doing his speech, and at the end they heal some people. And it's worth noting, I don't know if this is an intentional clue or if this just happened to get through the writer's room, but the sister character is in the tape, and she heals someone, and she says, "I've healed you." This is an early clue that the church isn't 100% on the level. A legitimate faith healer probably wouldn't say, "I've healed you," because you're not supposed to take credit for God's work. You wouldn't say, "I've healed you," you say, "God healed you." So there's a sign that they're really in it for the fame and fortune, whether this is intentional or not. But we meet the three characters in the office. The sister of the priest that, or pastor rather, that worked for him, and you can tell she put in a lot of work, but she's really only in there for the money. A classic anthology horror character. I just want the money, and yeah, probably pretty realistic, but yeah, the classic trope of only here to get the money, greedy character with the sister. We also get the sister's daughter, which would make her the pastor's niece, and it's described that they were really close when she was younger, but over time they started to drift apart, and she played a role in the pastor's downfall. She gave an interview on TV and kind of really ratted him out, and now his organization is much less respected. We also get that her current work is she runs a non-religious charity. After that, we get the guy's second in command, his assistant. And he was kind of like a yes man, and it's up for debate. It seems like he cared, but maybe he was just trying to climb the corporate ladder, and you have to kind of see how was he? Was he really into the message? Was he really into religion? Or was he just into money and power? And they leave him kind of vague at first before we find out which direction they take him. Also, we found out that the assistant and the niece were at one point in love. However, he wouldn't leave the church for her when she left, so the two wound up separating. So yeah, an X there. Anyway, they watch the tape, which they expect to be the will, and the guy starts talking to him, and he's like, "Isn't it funny me talking to you from beyond the grave on this tape?" Which is more and more accessible nowadays. So yeah, he's talking to them on the tape, and then rather than reading the will, there's no actual will on this tape. He just starts listing his grievances with each one of them. "You were only in it for the money, you betrayed me, you were only in it to climb the corporate ladder," and then he says, "I hope the three of you are together forever," which is a very underrated Rick Astley song, "Together Forever." Instead of comments arguing about religion, just talk about your favorite Rick Astley song. Anyway, after that, he says that he's going to return from the grave and give them a sign. Well, the sister says, "Hey, that wasn't the actual will. I really need the money. Let's try to look through his office and find the will." And they start digging and looking behind paintings for secret safes and stuff like that. And we actually get a pretty interesting conversation between the niece and the assistant, which I really went on further. You know, they start to talk about their past, and she has the new charity. And the assistant, I think it's just one line where he says, "Yeah, you're doing this big charity, but do you think in the end it'll be any different from what we do? In the end, you're going to get big enough that people who just want money and power are going to come in and start scooping off the top of the charity, and you'll have just made a different version of us." Which I think is interesting, but they really don't dwell on it, and that's part of the reason why I wish this episode was longer. You know, nowadays you have things like Charity Watch just for reasons like this. You know, whenever something gets too big, there will inevitably be people that come in trying to abuse it for their own personal reasons, and I think that's an interesting thing to explore and analyze, but again, cut kind of short, you know? So yeah, I wish there was a little bit more there. But anyway, after they search and talk for a while, the niece actually gets temporarily possessed by the ghost of the priest. And the ghost of the priest explains that that God didn't want him, so I guess he really wasn't on the level, and he's currently on the run from the devil. And he leaves her, so they know that his presence is kind of there, unseen by them, but they try to leave the office after that, because that's a pretty big, scary, crazy thing, a possession. But when they leave the office, they find that it's not the regular outside anymore. There's 2 doors to this office. In real life, I think they lead outside and then farther into the house. But when they open up these office doors, one door leads to hell and the other door will lead to heaven. They're kind of in a place between worlds. And why they do kind of freak out and they are kind of scared and they do want a way out of here, you think that would be a much bigger reaction to find out you got pulled into the afterlife, you know? I think, you know, the concepts of heaven and hell are so extreme, you think any mortal that saw either one of those 2 places would, like, instantly go insane, you know, just from the intensity of the concept, you know? And they do want out, but yeah, it's not ultimate terror, you know, which I would have expected. And also, heaven and hell are just a red and a blue light, as I mentioned earlier, but TV budget, what are you gonna do? And also, yeah, that whole thing with the niece being kind of an atheist nowadays, you think that if you are an atheist, especially, and you saw that heaven was literally right outside the door, you think that that would be something she would talk about a little more. I don't know. But anyway, they, of course, have to escape. And I do wish, you know, in addition to the themes, I do wish the escape element was brought up more. I wish they were running around the office, you know, trying to find clues hidden in small little details. And again, I wish it was more time, you know, like, to really explore this stuff. Because as it stands, and I won't spoil the ending, but the ending comes out in big chunks and goes a little bit too fast. Like, the big clue that they need is basically just spelled out to them. And then the ending is just a case of, yeah, I guess that is how it could end. Overall, this is basically a slightly better version of Dream Girl. I don't know. It's characters stuck in a weird reality with, you know, a good, you know, kind of idea behind it, but it's not the best thing ever, and it is another case of if Darkside had more time and budget, I really think they could have explored this more. As it stands, it's fine, but it's not my biggest recommendation of the series. But I'm still excited to see where the rest of this goes. As I said earlier, we only have 2 more episodes in this season, and I can't wait to have this wrapped up and move on to Season 3. That's going to be cool. Can't wait. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Tales from the Darkside playlist. I've covered all the past episodes of this show, so everything up to this point. I did a Season 1 overview, the Joe Hill comic, and the Christmas episodes early, so this playlist is getting pretty long. If you want to see a bunch more of these, you can find them there. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.